Hey friends, welcome to another episode of Ask Nurse Alice, the show where we talk about all things health, wellness, love, lifestyle, everything else under the sun, and I give you all the tea with no copay. For those of you who are returning, thank you so much for watching the show. I love reading your comments, getting your questions. It's just amazing that I'm able to be of help, what you guys have said. And then if you're new to the show, welcome, welcome, welcome. I'm your host, Nurse Alice. And just so you know, yes, I am a real nurse. I am a cardiac clinical nurse specialist, family nurse practitioner, and emergency room nurse with over 20 years experience, but who's counting because I am aging backwards. But this is definitely the show where we talk about health, wellness, and the things to empower and educate you so you can make happier and healthier choices so you can live a long and healthy life. So I do this because y'all do that. Y'all end up in my ICU and my ER, and I don't want to see you there. I'd rather you tune in every week to check out the show. So please make sure you go to your favorite podcast platform, subscribe, like, follow, Ask Nurse Alice, that's the name of the podcast. And if you want to catch the video, you can go to my YouTube page at youtube.com/Ask Nurse Alice, and you can, watch all the replays, the videos, and please share. I really think this is some helpful information. And again, no copay. Y'all don't like to go to the doctor, so help me help you in this time. And I'm really excited about today's show. Again, we talk about a variety of things, and I just want to preface this conversation with we're all stressed. There's lots of anxiety, depression, and a lot of things going on in the world today because of COVID-19. We've been separated from our loved ones. We're seeing a change in our economy. People are losing their jobs. We're being confronted with illness. We're seeing a lot of social injustice. That's been going on for a while, so let's just keep it real. But now because of the technology, we're able to see real-time images, and that's very stressful on us. And I want to emphasize that our mental health and mental wellness are very, very important these days, and you can't really have physical wellness without mental wellness. They go hand in hand, guys. So it's really important that we talk about things that are going on in the world today. And that's why I'm really excited about our next guest, because Mike Hill, you guys have seen him. You've seen him around. Longtime journalist, sportscaster for Fox Sports FS1. You see him on Fox Soul. He is one of the co-hosts for the Mike and Donny Show. He's also has a show, Hyperdrive, which is currently being streamed on Netflix. He's very active and engaged on social media. I've seen some of his workouts. Y'all, check the brother out because he has a lot of inspiring things. And, he talks about a lot of things. I've seen him talk about being out in the marches, talking about social injustice issues. So all around seems like a real, top dollar brother. I really appreciate him. And now we're also going to be adding to his repertoire, author in his new book called Open Mic. Please welcome to the show, Mike Hill. Hey, Mike, how's it going?
Hey, Nurse Alice, how's it going? So there's no copay, but do I have to have a certain type of insurance?
No, it's like a free clinic.
Hey, I like it.
Yes.
Some free clinics ain't good for you though.
Listen. America's favorite nurse is on duty, and I'm really excited to have this platform and talk about different things because and let me just focus on our people of color. Sometimes we don't like to go to the doctor or see our healthcare provider. So if I can, as you put it, I think you referred to yourself as an infotainer. I think I read that somewhere. So same thing with me. I like to take what I do in the hospital, translate it to the people. I meet them, through their ear pods, on their couch, whatever they're doing, so we can sprinkle a little health and wellness in their life. So,
but thank you for doing that.
Yes, and thank you for coming to our show. I'm really excited a lot. And you guys, I just gave you a snippet of the brother's resume, just so you know. There's a lot more that he's done and he has going on in his life. And I'm hoping we can get to that in the conversation. But the first thing, Mike, I want to talk about this book because let me say, I follow you on social media, so I've seen your workouts. I'm not there yet, but I want to say I used to see you do these like monologues called Open Mic. Mm-hmm. Is this where the book came from? I mean, tell us a little bit about where the idea for your book came from.
So on Instagram, I do what they call mic checks, and that's just me kind of checking in. I feel a certain emotion or something that moves me, a message that resonates with me, and I just want to share it with people, so I put those things out there. But open mic actually came from something that was deep down within. Like you said, a lot of people, especially in our community, a lot of us don't want to go to the doctor and check up on our mental, on our health,
Mm-hmm.
physical health. But we also got to take care of our mental and our emotional health too.
Yes.
And so when it's funny because we have a mutual friend, and she basically told me a long time ago, you need to write your book, you need to write your book. And because I had a lot of things that was going on in my life, and I was thinking at that time that, I'm not a big star. Who's gonna read my book? Why would I do that? She said you just need to write it. So I put it off for a long time. But in 2017, something was deep down inside of me, Nurse Alice, that told me that you have to write this book. And if
Mm.
you don't write this book, you're gonna die. And I
Oh,
swear to
wow.
God, I really felt that because on the outside, I was living this facade. I had this mask put on where
Mm.
I looked happy physically. I was happy mentally from the outside looking in. Professionally, personally, everything was going great. But on the inside, I had compacted so much trauma, so much hurt, so much pain on the inside, and so many of the things that affected me over my life that I needed to let out. And this
Wow.
book actually allowed me to let it out. So it became basically my therapy.
Wow. You're right. And getting that out is very therapeutic. We bottle in so much, but society has made it that way. Like if you talk about your feelings, you're weak. Men can't cry, and all of these things. So I'm really glad that you finally were able to get this out. So, what did that release feel like when you actually got those emotions, those experiences out on paper? What did it feel like?
I was telling a friend of mine today that, back in the day when I was going through what I was going through before I actually started writing the book, I would just find myself at home crying by myself.
Wow.
And I'm like, why am I crying? What's going on? Because I don't cry. I'm not a person. And there's a part of the book where you find out why I held in my tears because I was told no more tears by my
Mm-hmm.
biological father, right?
Yep.
So I held on to that as a black man for so many years and so long. But as an adult, I just found myself just crying every now and then. I told people that, like, you can hold in, I don't want to get too graphic, but say you just try and hold, you got to go to the bathroom. You try and hold that, your urine for a
Mm-hmm.
long period of time. Eventually, it's going
Yes.
to come out.
Oh, yes.
So that's what happened with tears. It was just built up, all
Mm.
this emotion, all this pain. And when you're emotional and you got a lot of pain, you automatically cry.
Yeah.
And I didn't realize that it wasn't a physical pain, but it was an emotional pain. And all that stuff started coming out. So when I started writing a book, it just felt like a release. It felt
Yeah.
like I was regurgitating. It felt like I was basically throwing up all my issues, all of my emotions that was harming me and harming others in my life over a
Right.
period of time, over the years. And so every time I would write something, I would feel a release and I would
Yeah.
feel like a weight had been lifted off of my body. And it just made me want to write more because the more I wrote, the better I got.
And you described it perfectly. It's a weight. So we have all of this emotional baggage. It gets heavy. I
Mm-hmm.
mean, the actual incident and the trauma is heavy itself, but when you allow those things to pile up and pile up and pile up, like you use the example of going to the bathroom, right? Yeah. If you got to go number two, and you can only hold on to that sucker for so long, and then it's gonna become explosive, and that can, when we get to our emotions and our feelings, you alluded to it, it can impact how we treat other people, how it
Mm-hmm.
influences other people. So for one, let me backtrack a little bit and tell everyone that you guys, we've all have our own individual traumas. Some people still haven't talked about it, things that happened to you as a youth, as a little kid, memories that are coming back to you. You gotta talk about it, okay? Because
Mm-hmm.
part of this is therapeutic. You need to acknowledge those traumas, work through them so you can be a better person. And not to mention that when you have that trauma and that stress, the hormones that are released, those can lead, I mean, if I'm going to translate it to health, it's going to lead to high blood pressure, diabetes, problem with your thyroids, weight gains, not to mention the emotional behaviors that some people can be really nasty because of some things that happened in their past and nobody knows because they didn't talk about it.
Right.
So I'm glad that you finally got this book out. Can you tell us a little bit more about the book? Can you give us some
Yeah, and
teasers here?
you kind of hit it on the head because that's why I said I was gonna die because I didn't realize as black men we're taught to suppress issues
Oh,
and
you're
not
right.
show those type of emotions and not go and get help because if you go and get help then that's a sign of weakness. So one of the reasons why I actually put the book out because I was just gonna put them out. It was gonna be my diary or whatever, and I said, you know what? This is and the T is I'm very transparent.
Okay.
I tell everything.
Oh, it's
I
juicy.
tell Yeah, it's a lot. It's a lot that I unpacked, and a lot of the stuff that I went through. It wasn't just the pain that I went through, or the issues that somebody did to me that affected my life, but what I did to other people because of
Mm.
the pain that I was holding on inside. Mainly from my relationship standpoints. You know,
Yeah.
I've been married twice, and I'm about to get married again, obviously. But I finally became a man at the age of 47. I'm about to turn 50 on August 19th. You know, but it took me that long to actually become a man. I thought I was a man, but I was doing childish things. So I had to grow up and become whole. I was inadequate. But because I put on this facade, because I put on this mask for so long, I was hiding my emotions and hiding my pain, hiding my fears or whatnot, and putting on this big bold face. And I was living a
Mm.
lie, and it affected my relationships. You know, like I'm very honest about that. You know, my infidelities that I had, cheating on my wives or whatnot. You know, people look at me and say, "No, he's a great father." You know, I had to learn how to be a great father
Yeah.
because nobody taught me. I didn't have a male role model along the way. You know, and then when my biological father was never in my life. My stepfather was an alcoholic, very abusive. The
Mm.
first thing that I ever saw or remember in my life when I was a kid was my mother getting her ass whipped. Sorry for
Wow.
cursing, but
It's
was getting
okay.
her butt whipped. You
Yeah.
know, and I remember those moments throughout my childhood and remembering that fear and being locked down and feeling like I'm helpless and I can't
Mm.
help this woman who birthed me and that I love because the man that's supposed to be protecting her is beating her down physically and mentally.
How
And
old were
then
you,
finally,
Mike? How old were you at that time?
I was, well, the first, I was probably about three when I first
Wow.
remember that, but it discontinued,
Mm.
not just from my biological father, but my stepfather over the years, whatnot, because he was an alcoholic, came home. My mom, she wasn't, the easiest person to get along with, to be honest with you, but she didn't deserve, no
Right.
woman ever deserves to have a man putting his hands on her at all. So this went on until I was about 15 to 16 years old, until one day I said enough is enough. When you're reading the book, what I actually did to actually kind of, try and stop that situation or whatnot. But
Wow.
then later on in life, finding out that the man that raised me, my stepfather, because I took his last name, he showed love for me and he had love for me and he cared about me, but he did not know how to be a good man because nobody taught him.
Right.
He
Right.
didn't have the therapy. He didn't have the male role models in his life to help him out. So luckily, I was able to learn from his mistakes. But when I went into the military, I come to find out later on, which I knew that he was already a killer, that this man was a hitman. And I found
Wow.
out that later. And then, of course, you'll find out why he spent the last 9 years of his life in prison. It was for murder
Mm.
for hire and what he did to get there. So it's a
Wow.
tragic tale of a lot of different things that kind of happened over my life and the events that went in my life and how I was able to overcome it. So hopefully people will look not just at my transgressions, but look at my transformation and looking at the person that I am today because I'm still growing into my purpose.
Right. And thank you for sharing that story. And I'm so glad that you're candid and you can share your truth because it actually gives other people permission to own what happened to them as a child. So, like you sharing what happened as early as the age of 3, those impressions are so memorable. So, I mean, I'm sorry that that happened to you, but you're not alone. You definitely are not alone. There are just people who haven't talked about it. So, for you to, kind of step up to the plate, especially as a black man, with everything that's going on, that shows leadership. That shows that to our other young, young and older men that it's okay. It's okay to
Yeah,
talk about these things.
and
It,
that's important, and that's one of the reasons why I wanted to share. Like I said, I am willing to show you my pain for you to heal yourself.
right.
A lot of people didn't even want me to put this book out.
Mm.
When I first wrote this book and I put it out there because I am so raw, it's so unfiltered, it's raw. I wrote it in my own words. So when you read the book, if you know me and you've been around me, like this sounds like Mike. Every
Yeah.
word. Somebody even gave me that compliment today that got an early copy. They said that this sounds like you. It's almost like I'm hearing your voice say this. I wanted to make it raw and real because of the things that I had to go through, but I also wanted to share that with people
Yeah.
to let them know that they're not alone. Because, like I said, there were people that told me, like, you can't put this out
Why?
because
Why didn't they want you to put it out? What do you think?
because I'm being transparent, because I'm talking about things that I did, the mistakes that I made when I was 15, 16 years old that I didn't get caught for, but I'm being open about it and telling kids, hey, you know what, we're going to make mistakes. And because I went down this path right here, or because I made this turn right here, I could have ended up dead. I could have ended up in jail. I could have ended up shot. I could have ended up,
Wow.
killing some. There are so many different things that I've done that a lot of people looking at me right now and they see me on television, like you gave me my resume on Fox Sports, being on ESPN, Real Housewives of Atlanta, whatever, being my own show on Mike Donny Show, whatever, Great Father, you see me on Instagram,
Yeah.
whatever. You got to see the man that I used to be,
Yep.
the boy that I used to be, and the mistakes that I made, and why I made those mistakes, and being around the wrong people, whatever. Not that I'm trying to put the blame on everybody
Mm-hmm.
else, but these are your circumstances.
Yep.
And when you have these circumstances, if you are a boy right now or a man right now and you're in those circumstances, I need you to read my words. So
Yeah.
if you read my words, you'll say, you know what, that sounds like me. I'm telling you, I don't want you to do the things I did. I
Yep.
had to learn and grow, and I made a lot of mistakes, and I hurt people. And that's why it was important for me to show what my decisions that I made in my life not only affected my life, but the people around me, and you're hurting other people. So hopefully people, the light will go off and people will understand that. But
Mm-hmm.
because of the content in there, and because I'm talking about my professional career as well, and some of the things I went through in professionally, there's a lot of people that told me, Mike, you can't write this book because this could destroy your career. But God told me,
There you go.
if this is what I'm supposed to do, if this has any kind of effect on my career, then so be it, because that's my purpose. That's what I'm supposed to do.
So, Mike, you said some really poignant things there. So, some people are afraid of the truth. They really, really are. But as you mentioned, this was between you and God. This is what you needed to uh, get off your chest and share. And this is part of your transformation. Being
Yeah.
honest with yourself. What happened? How did it make me feel? What did I do wrong? And then, but it's not even about what you did wrong. It's about the transformation now, what you're doing and how you're moving forward. But I think it's so important for people, and I'm going to go ahead and call out black men to
Mm-hmm.
see another black man go through those things and talk about it, because we're lacking guidance. Not every home has a male role model in the home, so you can be that for someone else. And especially with they see your highlight reel, right? They see your beautiful fiance there, Cynthia Bailey. They see you on television, all these wonderful things. But what did it take for Mike Hill to really get there, and who was the real Mike behind the scenes? So I'm hoping that when we read your book, we're going to get some of that. And you're raw and uncut. So is this like PG-13? Are we? Well, I mean, who's this book?
It
It's,
depends on, like PG-13, you can get away with a lot. I
yes.
will say it's like it's if you're watching television on cable and it's 8, 9 o'clock at night,
Okay.
not necessarily HBO.
Okay.
But if you're
Gotcha.
watching FX kind of shows you a
There you
little
go.
bit here and there. VH1 on the reality show shows you a little bit. It's raw. Like I said, some of the words in there are, they're not vulgar,
Hmm.
but
It's real.
there. I
It,
mean, there are stories in there. I basically spill it
yes.
in a way.
Yeah. Well, and that's good. So I mean, it's the truth. And that is,
It's the,
it's transparent. And so that's what we need enough of, especially in Hollywood. You know how that goes. All the smoke and mirrors and everything looks perfect. And listen, it's not, life is not easy. So it's important for people to see that, to see the transformation that you've made and say, look, I've made mistakes. As you alluded to, I could have been dead. I could have been in jail. I could have been all of these things, but I ended up here. And so hopefully someone who's reading your book can take from that lesson and then apply it to their life, so they too don't make wrong decisions and they do end up in jail or end up dead. That's one thing that I think that I'm hearing from your book, which releases tomorrow, August
mm-hmm.
19th. And so I imagine you're very, very excited about that. But let me ask one other question. You said that writing this book was therapeutic.
Mm-hmm.
Along the ways, because we don't talk about this a lot, and we don't have enough therapists out there. Did you ever go to therapy or consider going to therapy? How did that work? Because some people are afraid to go
Yeah.
to a therapist. What's that like as
Well,
a?
before,
Mhm.
well, the book became my therapy. It was me getting things off my chest. Now, before that, the only time I had ever gone to therapy before was I had gone to some like marital counseling or whatever, but I never had a good experience because, one thing I've always been that if I have made mistakes, I will admit. that I've made mistakes. I will
Okay.
say that. But when you go to marital counseling, sometimes one side might not do the same thing, So, and then
True.
if you're with the wrong counselor and you feel ganged up on or whatnot, so it
Yeah.
was like I was kind of turned off from it. That was marital counseling. I needed individual counseling
Yep.
because obviously the marriages didn't work because I hadn't taken care of my business, my
Yep.
job first
There you go.
before I jumped into a business with somebody else. And that was a big issue. So here's the thing, and the reason why I'm so huge on mental therapy now and why I'm huge on going to find someone to talk to is because even after you have done the job, so the book was my surgery that I've been needing for so many years.
That's good
I
stuff.
needed somebody to cut this cancer out of my body or remove this bullet, this thing that's been in my body for so many years. So even if the bullet comes out of your body, you still have to get treatment afterwards.
That's
You
true.
don't just remove the bullet and just let the wound stay there. You
Hmm.
still got to patch the wound. You still got to treat the wound. You still got to make sure it doesn't get infected. Therefore, your treatment becomes your therapy after the fact. So I wrote the book and then I started going to counseling. And I've been going to counseling every week. And so like on Fridays at 12:30 Pacific time, I'm there talking to my therapist because, you'll find yourself saying, you know what, I don't really have a lot to say today. But then if you got a good therapist, they'll touch a nerve that will make you
Mm.
say the things you're supposed to say to get things off your chest. And can I tell you right now, Nurse Alice, ever since I've been going to therapy, it has changed my life. It has made me a better person. It has made me understand who I truly am. It has made me not be afraid of being who I truly am and showing the world who I truly am. And it's just made me feel lighter. Like I said, the book took a lot of weight off my shoulders, but now I feel like I'm floating. And it's like, you know
There you
what?
go.
I got the best years, I pray, of my life coming up. Like you said, I'll be 50 tomorrow, and I am the next 25, 30 years going to be the best 25, 30 years of my life because I know who I am and I feel like I'm good enough and I'm adequate and I'm whole now because I'm walking into my manhood.
I love it. I gotta give a clap because I love hearing these type of things. And by the way, you are aging backwards. I have to say that you do not look
Thank you.
nowhere near not maybe 30, something like that. But go ahead, I'll give you
It's
50.
so sweet.
But it's also probably because I've seen your workouts on Instagram. I'm not gonna go there right now, but getting all that off, I promise you that y'all, your mental health plays such a big role in how it affects you physically. Y'all seen those people? You're like, how you're thinking they're like 40, like I'm 20, I'm 29, because you see that stress on their
Yeah.
face, those wrinkles, that weight. But I'm glad. I was actually talking to someone on the similar topic, and they said that they felt lighter as well. So that's interesting that you use those words because that trauma, that stress can weigh really, really heavy. So when we say there's a monkey on your back, it feels like there's about 10, 15, 20 monkeys on your back when you've not dealt with it. And you're right, going to therapy is very important. Guys, you don't have to wait for something to quote unquote go wrong to go to therapy, right? Just like we talk a lot about eating healthy, exercising to maintain and promote our wellness. Same goes for our mental health. And truth be told, y'all got baggage. We
Oh
all
yeah.
have emotional
Ooh.
baggage, whether we admit it or not. You got some.
I'm glad you said that. That's very important because a lot of people feel like, well, ain't nothing going wrong in my life. I was
Yeah.
saying the same thing to myself, man. My life is fine, man. I would tell people and I would tell myself I'm the happiest I've ever been in my life, both professionally and personally.
Yeah.
And then, like I said, something just hit me and made me feel this way.
Yeah.
If you're a person right now, especially if you're a black man or you're a black person in this country, let's
Mm-hmm.
just keep it 1,000.
100. Keep it.
You have some emotional trauma
Yes.
that is in your life more than likely because there is something that you have dealt with your entire life, and every black person that you know has dealt with their entire life, and it's called racism.
Mm-hmm.
And when you have dealt with racism, you feel it, it's out there, whether somebody calls you the N-word or whatever, or they're stressed at work, that's trauma
It
that you
is.
have learned over a period of time to suppress. And because you suppress that, that is killing a part of you
Yeah.
that you don't even realize. Once you let that go and you're able to clear that space, you can allow blessings and good things to come into your life and goodness, and you can grow in a good way. You mentioned that thank you for the compliment that I don't look 50. But when I go back to certain areas that I grew up in, and I see people I went to high school with, I see the stress of their lives and the
Mm-hmm.
things they've gone through, and alcohol and
Yeah.
drugs or family members or whatever. And I see them. I, you say I look in like I'm in my 30s. They're my age, 50, and they look like they're in their 70s. A
Yep.
lot of them.
I've
You
seen
know,
it.
it ages you and it takes
Yes.
away from your body. Why do that to yourself? So if you can't afford a therapist or a counselor, talk to somebody. Write a journal.
Right.
Talk to your pastor. Find a confidant, somebody that you can just really release to, because that's important. And as men, we have to understand that that doesn't make you weak.
It
That
doesn't.
makes you stronger. You know what I
Yep.
mean? You don't want to be 6 feet under. You know what I mean? Thinking that, you know what, I'm too big for this. So definitely take care of your mental health and your
Yep.
well-being so that you can live a long, healthful, fruitful life.
Exactly. Don't let stress or emotional baggage be the death of you. Because it
Mm-hmm.
will. It'll impact you physically as well. And I don't have, what I'm going to do, guys, for those of you who are watching, we'll make sure to add this on the end of the show. There is a national mental health crisis line. So if you don't have that confidant or someone you feel that you can trust, some people are like, I'm not talking about my business. It's going to be out in the streets. Okay, I get it. I get it. But there's someone out there that can help. And so I'm going to provide the phone number for that at the end of the show so you guys can call and tune in, because we really want you to have someone to talk to, or at least a starting point, especially if you're getting to the tipping point of, why am I here? Because stuff can get really, really heavy, and people can sometimes question, does it make a difference if I'm here or not? And I really don't want anyone to get to that point. Okay, so
Mm-hmm.
we'll make sure to provide that number at the end of the show, and there's a website as well. You can text for some help. So, Mike, this is some good stuff. I'm really looking forward to your book. Releases tomorrow. Where can people find the book, or where can we buy it? I mean, give us all the details.
Yeah, it's on Amazon. It's on Barnes and Nobles, Bam, anywhere books are sold, in Target. Pre-sales been going very well. But once again, August 19th, this is to be on your bookshelf. So just go check it out. Open mic. My memoirs. It tells everything about my life, whether you want to hear it or not. But like I said, be ready because it's raw. It's unfiltered. I got God in my life. Don't get me
There you
wrong.
go.
And I'm very spiritual. Don't get me
That's
wrong.
all you
But
need.
yeah, yeah. But
God
at the
and
same
Google.
time, yeah.
That gets you everything you need to know. God and
Yeah,
Google. There you go.
that's all you need.
Yeah.
Yep.
Now, so you guys make sure to go out and check out, get Mike's book. I mean, I'm sure it's gonna be a bestseller. I'm speaking that
Oh, thank
into
you.
fruition. It probably has already sold several copies. We're gonna keep that prayer out there. I'm sure it'll do well. And guys, even if it's not for you, I'm sure you know someone. And I'm not just saying that this book is just for Black men, but you know, give it to somebody. I'm sure you know someone who could probably benefit from it. So,
And can I say something real quick?
sure.
Nurse Alice? Because a lot of people say on the cover, I don't know if you've seen the cover of the book. The cover of the book, and there's a reason
Mm-hmm.
why I put the cover of the book. And we also got to get past that as men, too, because a lot of men, like, I ain't buying that book because of the cover. Because on the cover, I don't have anything on.
Oh, you doing a
So
D'Angelo? You what you're doing
it's kind of like it's a D'Angelo thing, but it's not to show off anything. I swear to God, there's meaning behind it because the cover is in black and white. So it's me coming out of the darkness
Okay.
and coming into the light. So you see a little bit of light. You see me bent, my head bowed down because I'm not proud of the things I've done in my past. There's a little bit of an embarrassment there.
Okay.
You see me shirtless. You see me exposed because now I'm being
Mm,
transparent.
there you go.
The most vulnerable you can be in your life is being butt naked. So I just want to say I ain't got nothing to hide. I'm naked. I'm vulnerable. And you see the microphone cords wrapped around me, and that's been the things that's been bonding me. Those have
Oh,
been my traumas and my pains that's been bonding me for so many years. So that's why I call it, of course, open mic is, as you know, being in broadcasting,
yep.
you don't want to speak in an open mic because sometimes you're afraid of what you might say that you
Ooh,
don't want people to know. Well, I'm
yep.
speaking into an open mic. But on the back cover, it's a little bit lighter. My head is up because I'm stepping into the lightness, to the bright lights now.
Mm-hmm.
And of course, Cynthia's on the back cover with me, and I got somebody that has my back, and she's wrapped
Oh, I
around me with my.
love it.
So I mean, and these are my last chapters of my life. So they have meaning. So I just wanted to put that out there.
Okay. No, that's good to
Yeah.
know because some of y'all are petty. So you heard the brother explain, and it actually makes good sense. So it's symbolic of the journey that
Yes.
you've been through. So guys, get over the cover. The brother's already told us about how, the reason behind it. And I think if more people took the time to just not look at things at face value, but take a time to take a deeper dive into what things mean, we'd have a lot more kindness and things going on in the world today.
Absolutely.
But I'm excited about that. Now that you've explained that cover, that sounds even more reason to buy the book and want to read. So guys, if you're not for yourself, buy it for someone else. I think this will be a great book for people, and it empowers people to talk about their mental health and things that they've been through, and to feel like you're not alone. Because I think that's one of the worst feelings, feeling like you're alone. No one understands what's happened, your journey, and you just feeling by yourself and like no one can relate. So, Mike's being transparent. He's going to talk about his journey. I'm sure you can find some similarity in his stories. So this would be great, especially as he's talked about how this has made him feel lighter and better, and how he's moved forward on with his life. Now, Mike, outside of the book, though, I couldn't leave without talking with you. Now, you've talked about your challenges and kind of what's brought you to where you are today. You've mentioned that you were a divorcee times 2, and you were still able to find love. And you and Cynthia look so happy out there.
Thanks.
So, any advice for anyone else? Because we're in quarantine right now. It's hard, people. And if you didn't have a boo before quarantine, it's even harder to date and meet people now. And some people can feel hopeless about finding love, especially after you've had. And I'm not going to say unsuccessful relationships, because you learn from them. You learn from them and you get better each time. But any advice for someone who maybe has been in a relationship, it didn't work out, and they're still looking for that love of their life?
Yeah. Well, I mean, I think when you do get out of a relationship that doesn't work, I do believe that you're right. It's actually successful because it served its purpose.
Yes.
So that was successful in what you needed to learn. If you got something out of that relationship, that's going to help you be a better man or woman going into your next relationship. So what I've learned about myself, and everybody's different, but what I learned about myself and what I tell other people is, like, before you get into a meaningful relationship, one where you want to sustain a good true love, love yourself first.
Boom.
Make sure
Mic drop.
that you are, make sure that you are whole. Make sure that you are fulfilled. Make sure it's not a situation where you need a man or a woman.
Yes.
Because it's good to have somebody in your life, and yes, you would like that. You would want to have a good man or woman, but when you talk about a need, that means that you're missing something. That means that that person that's going to come into your life is supplementing a hole in your life. So what happens if that person takes that away? Then all of a sudden you're going to be desiring it, and then all of a sudden it becomes something that you might be addicted to, almost like a drug, and you're going to stick around with this person because that one thing that person provides for you, you feel like you need, and it's just filling a hole in your life. So figure out a way to make yourself as whole as possible. And then when you're ready for that, open yourself up to it. Don't rush into it. Don't let your wants become a need, because I have friends like that who are old that have wants and like, I want it so bad. Just let it happen. And when it actually happens and it comes to you, I swear it's going to be even better. But also make sure that the person that you have doesn't have a need either, that person is whole as well. Because always look at it like this. You can have a layer of a cake that's perfectly rounded, right? That cake is good by itself. You can eat that cake. That's fine. You can present it, looks good, perfectly rounded. But what happens when you get another cake, 360, perfectly rounded, stack it on top of one another? Everything else is the icing on top. You got a beautiful, good, moist cake that you want to eat. That's even better. But if you got a perfectly rounded one layer and then you got another cake that got slices already missing out of it, it doesn't look right. It ain't right. So make sure you get somebody just as whole as you are, and everything that you guys build together becomes the icing on the cake.
There you go, guys. Because I know, listen, because y'all have written in, I've heard the comments. We've had a past episode talking about relationships. It's rough in these relationship streets right now, but that doesn't mean rush out and, get hitched to married to the next person you meet. You got to work on yourself, because, and I think we've all been through this. When we don't work on ourselves, those things, those traumas, those unresolved issues pop up in our relationship, and the relationship will only exacerbate these things. I mean, it's gonna make things worse. So work on yourself. Find someone who's also worked on themselves before you join. Because listen, we don't have time for stress and drama. So don't bring stress and drama to someone else. They won't bring it to you, and you can have a beautiful union. Because it sounds like you guys were, and you guys have a date set for your wedding.
Yeah, I mean, it's since in, but COVID-19 is supposed to be October 10th, but who knows what's going to happen. We might have to push it, the wedding date. We don't know. We can still get married today or whatever. We're still trying to figure things out. And we haven't even sent out the invitations yet. So it's like, because everything's kind of up in the air. But one thing I will say about us is, like, one of the things that I like about us is, even though we're a public couple and, you know, we see us on Instagram and whatnot, you know, we don't sugarcoat it. You know, we have issues, you know, and I don't want people looking, because a lot of people look at social media and all people see are the people who are all happy and like I'm doing all, you know what, and then people want to actually emulate that and think that's what the perfect union is. A perfect union isn't something, we're whole, we don't necessarily need each other, but we want to be in a relationship and we're together and we're growing together. Now we're building and adding things on together, but at the same time we have issues just like everybody else. But yeah, I think a lot of people, when people see people on social media, they all see the happy times and, you know, living a certain life or whatever. And I think one of the things that I love about Cynthia and our relationship is that we don't sugarcoat a lot of things. Sure, we show that we're happy and love, and for the first time in my life, I'm able to fall in love because of everything that happened in the book and whatnot, and me being able to be the person that I am. But we also have gone through some rough stretches, and we even admit, like, hey, we've been tested during the COVID-19, the quarantine and whatnot. But one thing I want to tell people is that when people look at us and they say, you know what, I want what you guys have. Can I find a Mike? Can I find a Cynthia? I'm like, are you willing to work for it? Because what I've realized in a good relationship is a relationship is work. A relationship is a partnership, just like a business. You got a CEO, you might have a CFO, a COO, or whatnot, but you still got to be able to work together to sustain that business, to allow it to grow, to become the Fortune 500 company that you hope it will necessarily be. But, you know, it's what you put into it. So if you're with somebody that you're willing to go through wars with and not give up on the first sign of distress or any kind of issues, then you may have found the right one. So, and hopefully, you know, Cynthia's the right one. I ain't doing this again.
There you go. There you go. But you know what? You've worked on yourself, and she loves you for who you are and and that's one thing. When you can be who you truly and authentically are in front of someone, not having to put that mask on, that's a great thing. When someone loves you and embraces you for who you truly are. And that's the type of person you really want on your life and on your team. So, I'm so glad.
She wrote the foreword, actually, and she told me, she's like, if it wasn't for this book, we wouldn't be together.
Oh.
Because she had the manuscript. And she had when I actually met her around the same time I was going through what I was going through, and I felt like I needed to write the book. And so while we were dating, she was like, what are you doing? I'm like, I'm writing. She's like, what are you writing? I'm writing this book. I was writing my memoirs. And she's like, read something to me. And I started reading it to her. And she said it started making her feel closer to me because I was unveiling parts of my life that I had never told anybody before.
Yeah.
And I felt comfortable doing that. So, I mean, it's all God's will. And, you know, like I said, she's been a big part of that. And I pray that she's the final chapter of my life. Well, not the final chapter, but we can create more chapters together.
There you go. That's a beautiful thing. And I'm glad that you're able to find that in each other because, again, being able to be vulnerable, your true authentic self with someone and feel like they're not going to judge you or, you know, just throw you to the side or to the curb. That's a real good feeling. That's a real good feeling. That's how
I've been judged before.
Listen, we got a lot of judgmental people out there, but we ain't going to go there right now. Right, Mike?
We'll leave that alone.
Leave that alone. But anyways, you guys, this has been a great conversation. Mike Hill, his book available, actually pre-order. You can actually pre-order it today.
Yep.
But it's officially released tomorrow. And Mike, tell us again, where can we find your book and where can people find out more about you and things you got going on?
So it's the book is called Open Mic, and you can find it on Amazon, Barnes & Noble, Target, wherever books are sold. Like you said, pre-orders right now. You can also follow me on my Instagram at It's Mike Hill, and on Twitter at It's Mike Hill, ITS Mike Hill. And, you know, watch me on the Mike and Donny Show on Fox Soul. Once again, Hyperdrive still streaming on Netflix, and Cynthia and I actually got a show that is coming out pretty soon
Oh,
as well. Met on a dating show, so we got something like that maybe in development to help other people
there you go.
try and find love through unconventional means as well. And I'm just trying to prosper and walk in God's footsteps.
There you go. Love it. Love it. So much success to you, the book, you and your fiance. I know you guys are going to have a happy and long, healthy life together.
Yeah.
Guys, this has been a great episode. Thank you so much for tuning in to Ask Nurse Alice. Again, we talk about all things health, wellness, love, lifestyle, and everything else under the sun, all the tea with no copay. And you have just heard from Mike Hill. Again, Mike, thank you for joining us. Make sure to follow him. You guys make sure also to follow the show on your favorite podcast platform, Ask Nurse Alice. Like, follow, subscribe, all those beautiful things. And keep sending your comments and your questions. Let us know what you want to hear, because this is a show for you. Okay, guys? So until next time, make sure you're social distancing, washing your hands, taking good care of yourself, loving one another. And until next time, live well, my friends. Bye.
This has been an Inclusive Media Podcast Studios production.